Hey, everybody. All right. Hope everybody's doing well. We are live. We're going to do the final review of the Barry Morphew arrest affidavit and get through the remaining part of this document. I'm going to go ahead and get started because it's such a lengthy document to review. Hopefully, a lot more people will join us here along the way. All right. Digging deep here. Discussion of Exhibit 8. S.A. Grishing showed Barry a photo of a Google Earth image around his house and results of the telematics of his truck from 2:47 p.m. until 9:25 p.m. on that Saturday. S.A. Grishing asked Barry if he was preparing for his Broomfield trip. Barry said, "Yeah, just packing clothes and tools and stuff." S.A. Grishing asked Barry if he wanted to review the times on the sheet, explaining he did not have much time to cook steak when his doors were opening and closing. Barry looked at the sheet and said, "And I was grilling the steak outside and probably doing things in my truck at the same time. I mean, I can assure you we grilled steaks and ate steaks that night." There's photos in this document along the way showing Barry during the interview. Barry added, "I mean, you should have seen the dishes. Did they see the dishes?" S.A. Grishing said Agent Graham found one set of dishes was used. Barry said, "We just shared the same plate." While Barry was reviewing the telematic times, S.A. Grishing asked, "You were guessing segs happened? What? Do you know when?" Barry stated, "I know it was after the steaks and before I went to sleep." S.A. Grishing asked if there was a gap, possibly an hour or two in between, and Barry said, "I don't remember." S.A. Grishing said agents were trying to fill in, and Barry interjected with, "I want to help you guys. I want to help you guys get this clarified. For your sakes and for my sake, I, to this day, don't even remember taking my Bobcat to town to crib to do that Saturday. I don't know why that is gone from my memory, but I just don't recall it." He added, and I told Derek and Joe that same thing. I said because they were beating me up on that time frame. And I'm like, I don't recall that. I don't even recall that. And I know that I know that I went through a lot of trauma before those questions, emotionally and mentally. And maybe that was it. But I got a pretty good memory. S.A. Grishing asked Barry when the last time he saw Suzanne was that night, since he only heard her snoring Sunday morning. He replied, "I would say between 8 and 9, if I was guessing." S.A. Grishing asked if she went to bed nude or with pajamas, and Barry stated, "No, she never sleeps in the nude." I don't know if she was nude after when we had sex, but I don't know what she put on and when she put it on, but she always puts stuff on. She doesn't sleep in the nude. S.A. Grishing asked Barry when he last saw her, and he answered, "Probably during sex." He added, "'Cause like most men, I probably fell asleep pretty soon after that." S.A. Grishing said that from the truck activity, segs must have happened after 9:25 p.m. Barry said, "And it could have been, depending on the light of day then. It was May, so it's still, I mean, right now, I see it's getting lighter and lighter. So I'm just kind of basing off light instead of clocks, not clocks." Just checking something real quick here. All right, moving on. S.A. Grishing asked if Suzanne seemed out of the normal regarding their segs that night, considering the affair and fights that week. Barry said, "No, I've never had a feeling that anything was different in her segs life. Never." S.A. Grishing referenced Barry's phone function of airplane mode being on at 2:47 p.m. and off at 10:17 p.m. on Saturday. Barry stated, "And see, I don't recall that. And I think I told you that. I don't recall that. And I'm wondering if that could have been her." S.A. Grishing told Barry his phone was back in airplane mode at 4:32 a.m. Sunday morning, asking if he noticed that and noted Suzanne was not awake. Barry shook his head and said, "I just don't recall." He added, "Yeah, I don't recall any of the airplane mode thing." He continued, "Not saying that I didn't. I could have, because we always talk about when we're going to have an intimate night, turning the phones off. But I don't recall that." S.A. Grishing asked about the 4:32 a.m. airplane mode function while Barry was preparing to leave to Broomfield. Barry stated, "I know that I could have been in the shower and she could have gotten up and turned it back on if she had turned it off. Easily could have done that because my phone is not with me in the shower." Moving on to discussion of Exhibit 10. Again, there's various photos of Barry during the interview. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Hope everybody's doing well. This is a good bit of the information I found in this last part of the documents. Pretty interesting. All right, moving on. S.A. Grishing asked Barry to review a series of 20 photos of him walking to the McDonald's trash can. The first few photos depicted him carrying a small item in his hand. Barry said, "I know that I had a bunch of crap in my truck from cleaning off my workbench. And I do know that one of them was an old pair of boots that was ripped. And the other stuff, I just don't." S.A. Grishing said Barry had a small item in his hand and used one arm to push it down, then both to push it further down as Barry was shown the photos. Let's see. Barry said, yeah. Then the trash was heaping to the top. That's why. Blank just sitting in there. And the blanks are usually they have it as unintelligible, so you can't read it, or I mean, they particularly didn't know the specific word. So I'll just use a blank in place of that. S.A. Grishing asked if the photos helped Barry recall what the item was, and he said, "No, I mean, it was just probably trash in the blank." S.A. Grishing showed Barry. He pushed the trash to the extent his shoulder was in the trash can. Barry said, "Yeah, I don't even recall that, but..." S.A. Grishing said Barry returned to the truck, grabbed another item, and walked it back to the trash can. Barry said, "Yeah." Barry was told anything he could remember helps the investigation, that these appear to be two small items he disposed. Barry said, "Yeah, I couldn't tell you what it was." Discussion of Exhibit 12. S.A. Harris reviewed Barry's left turn from 225 to see the bull elk on Sunday morning, looking for the future shed. They're referring to shedding of their antlers, asking if he had to go up in elevation. Barry said, "No, I was just seeing their route. I just wanted to know because they usually take the same route. So if a herd of elk is gonna go up across the road at a certain place and go up there, then that's where I'm going to go look for their sheds." S.A. Grishing asked Barry if he saw them and continued to look for their route as he went along. He said, "No, I just wanted to see the direction because Colorado Trail is right off that parking lot and it's pretty flat all through there. And it doesn't start going up till you get up to the railroad tracks. So you can pick them and see them through the trees wherever they're going." Barry was asked if he was in a rush to get to Broomfield and the elk distracted him. He said, "There was no rush to get there. I'm just an early riser and an early go-getter, and usually if an animal gets in my interests, I'm going to take advantage of it. That's it. But I just went down, I watched where they went, turned around, and went right to Broomfield." Agent showed Barry the photo of a SG-11 mini DV operating manual for a camera, which S.A. Harris explained was recovered in the bathroom drawer. Barry said, "Yeah, and I never used it. I bought it because I thought I would use it as a game camera. A little thing, and it was cheap, and my game cameras." S.A. Grishing interrupted and said the camera was not found in the search of the house. Barry stated, I don't even know what happened to it. I know that I bought it and it was tiny. And I think as soon as I got it, I tried to get it working and couldn't. And I thought it was just junk and I got ripped off. S.A. Grishing asked when he bought the camera compared to when Suzanne went missing. Barry replied, I don't recall. S.A. Harris said the manual was found at the top of the items in the drawer. S.A. Grishing asked Barry to confirm he did not get it to work. Barry said, yeah, I tried to get it working and I couldn't. I just thought. S.A. Grishing asked if he tried to mount it outside like a game camera, and Barry said, no, never. I couldn't get it working. Discussion of Exhibit 14. Thank you, Spooky Trash. Hey, Amber E., thank you. S.A. Harris reviewed photos of the safe in Barry's garage, with items piled in front of the safe to address his concern that Suzanne took money from it. S.A. Grishing showed Barry a photo of the contents of the bottom of the safe, noting the scope looked like the scope mounted on the chipmunk gun. Barry looked at the photo and stated, yeah, it does. He added, I could have mounted that after the fact. S.A. Grishing said that was why agents asked him earlier about the scope being on the gun, clarifying could he have mounted after the fact. Barry shook his head and said, yeah, I just don't recall. S.A. Grishing told Barry the serial matches the one on the squirrel gun, and Barry said, yeah. All right, discussion of Exhibit 17. Hey guys, thanks for your patience. I was having a couple technical difficulties there, and it took me an extra day or two to get things back up and rolling, so I appreciate that. S.A. Harris showed Barry photos of Suzanne's wallet, cash, driver's license, hydration packet, medication, and other items recovered from her Range Rover. S.A. Grishing said that considering the evidence, it does not appear Suzanne chose to disappear. Barry said, and I've never thought that. The notation on that statement was, after being told of the affair, Barry asserted multiple times that Suzanne must have left on her own, which was why her personal documents, wallet, money, and Camelback water pack were shown to him. Discussion of Exhibit 18. S.A. Grishing showed Barry photos of the binder recovered in the search of his truck and the documents inside, which appeared to be mail. Barry was told no documents from EA Outdoors for the Broomfield site were recovered, and S.A. Harris and Barry previously told agents he was studying documents for his job in Broomfield. S.A. Grishing asked if he threw the job documents away. Barry replied, no, I left them there for the workers. S.A. Grishing asked if he left the documents in the hotel room, and he said, yeah, I should have. S.A. Grishing asked if Barry told Morgan he was leaving the papers, and he said, I don't know. Everything was so crazy that day. Discussion of Exhibit 19. Barry was shown photos of the dart boxes recovered from the search and asked if he recalled what all areas around the house he fired them. He replied, no, I don't. I know I have fired from the breezeway before, and I fired them from the garage at deer that were up on the hill behind the rock wall. Barry was asked if he ever missed a shot, and he said, a deer? Oh, no. He continued, no, I used to raise deer. I've shot hundreds. S.A. Grishing asked if it was ever fired in the house. Barry said, only if it was open in that door in that breezeway, but not inside the house. S.A. Grishing asked Barry how he wakes up a deer when it is out. He said, yeah, you got to reverse it, he continued. Just give it a shot, chemical in there, blank. Barry was asked if he had that chemical at the house, and he said, I don't know if I had any left or not. I don't recall. Barry was asked the name of the chemical, but he could not recall it. He said he could make a phone call and added, I don't recall having any left. Barry said they are fired like a bullet, and when asked if they have an expiration date, he said they have one. Discussion of Exhibit 20. Barry was shown photos of the interior of his truck with the tools, trash, and disorder when it was photographed by law enforcement. He said nothing looked out of place. When asked what was in the backpack, he said, clothes, just clothes for staying overnight. Discussion of Exhibit 23. Barry was shown the photos of nude women and Segs encounter, dating sites recovered from his cell phone. He said he never had a dating website, and the images and websites recovered must have been from pop-up ads when he was viewing pornography. Agents agreed such images and dating sites could have come from Barry viewing porn on his phone. When asked about any searches for meeting girls, Barry said, "Well, you can obviously see that I never looked for a girl on my phone or online. I mean, there's nobody out there. So, I mean, if there was, you guys could. If anybody could, you guys could." S.A. Grishing discussed blank texting and said his girls and Suzanne shared things he did not know about. Barry said, "Me and my daughters are pretty close. I mean, if there's bits and pieces there, then yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But if it's a long conversation about, I guarantee you, my daughters had no idea about the affair." S.A. Gershing asked if his daughters still did not know as someone walked in the room, and Barry stood up. Agents followed him outside and spoke by his truck. Barry said, "Oh, you asked me if they knew about the affair. I did tell them." Barry was asked how that went, and he said, "Not very good." Barry was asked if he told them both at the same time, and he said, "Yep, I just sat him down and I said, 'Girls, I don't want to ever keep anything from you, and I don't want you to think bad about your mother, but I think this is important for you to know.' And I told them, and they cried hard. They got angry, but I think it was the right thing to do." Notation on that statement: this contradicts Barry's earlier statement that same day to the FBI that he had not told his girls about the affair. Barry said, "Yeah, well, I got to get back." S.A. Gershing said the last item was Barry's texting to Suzanne from July to October 2020, and he was asking why he was texting her. Barry said, "It was just an outlet for me to try to deal with my pain." Barry was asked if he was actually texting her message content, and he said, "I texted if she could see it. I was texting as if she could read it. And I knew deep down in my heart that she probably wasn't reading them, but it just kind of gave me comfort that I was talking to her." Barry said, "I'll look into it. I can tell you right now what everyone was, I love you. I miss you. I'm not going to stop looking for you. Just things like that to make me feel better. Yeah." Barry added, "And I just assumed that you guys had the phone. But I thought if there was a chance, if she had it and could see something, but like I said, I mostly did it to make me feel better." S.A. Grishing said the FBI would search with law enforcement for the phone and for Suzanne, asking Barry where he thinks we should concentrate. Barry replied, "I would say the river. I mean, that makes more sense to me than anything. I don't understand why somebody hasn't been out there before now. When the river was low, I mean, heck, they spent 140 grand to dig up a job site, and there's no way she was at." S.A. Grishing said the issue investigators have with the river is Suzanne's helmet being placed away from the bike, placed as possibly a diversion indicative of foul play. Barry said, yeah. April 22nd, 2021. In this interview, FBI agents showed Barry their audit results and discussed them, directly telling him in the end that Suzanne was not conscious Saturday evening, May 9th, or Sunday morning, May 10th, and Barry agreed with, yeah. Barry admitted to disposing of the tranquilizers. He confirmed his last encounter with Suzanne was hearing her light snore. He explained his locations in the woods around his house on May 9th as looking for a turkey, and agreed the evidence in this case makes him look bad, but it's in God's hands. Agents told Barry that from his own words when he says, "I don't recall," that means he is lying, because he answered almost all of the audit questions with, "I don't recall." At approximately 10:05 a.m., S.A. Grishing and S.A. Harris met Barry at France Reservoir in Salida, Colorado at his request. Barry arrived driving his Bobcat, parked, and then greeted agents and thanked them for meeting him. Barry stated that he was sorry. "Yeah, I'm working right here. Sorry we couldn't get somewhere a little less windy. And I got a couple workers over there, so hopefully we can move pretty quickly." S.A. Grishing told Barry it was up to him how much he wanted to accomplish today. S.A. Grishing asked how Barry is doing it. He says it's been tough for he and blank, with Suzanne's birthday on the 30th and the 10th is coming up. S.A. Grishing explained that he and S.A. Harris have put together an audit that is sort of like an inspection, and that agents would like to show it to him and discuss some of the answers that he has given and determine where Barry is today. S.A. Grishing said he would like to hand it to Barry and go through it with him, and he agreed. S.A. Grishing directed Barry's attention to the second sentence and said that Barry, as her husband, is the last person that saw her, and that it seemed that May 9th is the last time Barry saw her, and May 10th is the last time he heard her breathing. S.A. Grishing asked Barry if that is correct, and Barry said yes. Now, side note to that, this is the paragraph shown to Barry. The FBI Denver Division is submitting the results of the interviews with Barry Lee Morphew and how those results compare to the evidence collected by investigators as of the present date. Barry, as the spouse of Suzanne, is the last person to see her alive on or about May 9th, 2020 or May 10th, 2020. Independent of the spouse, the last proof of life for Suzanne was verified as being shortly before 2:44 p.m. on May 9th, 2020. All right. S.A. Grishing then mentioned the last proof of life, independent of Barry, is when she is talking to her lover when he comes home. Barry was asked where the $30,000 from the GoFundMe page for Suzanne went and whether it was used to pay for the Longhorn Ranch property. Barry said, "I don't recall where the money went, but like I said, a lot of that money, I paid George $4,000 because he stopped working. I paid a lot of things out of that money, but I don't recall a lot of what it was." S.A. Harris explained to Barry that agents want the fullest picture, and when things are missing after behaving consistently, there is a question of what changed. S.A. Harris explained to Barry that Suzanne's phone behavior is one of those places because Suzanne consistently sent either good night or good morning messages to her lover, and that there is an absence of those messages on Saturday evening and Sunday morning. S.A. Harris told Barry that looking at the evidence, it seems likely something happened to Suzanne's phone, to Suzanne, or both, since she is not saying something to her lover before she goes to bed. Barry nods his head in response and says, "Yep." S.A. Grishing told Barry that for sure on Sunday morning after Barry leaves, Suzanne would have been texting her lover, so her phone is either gone or inoperable Sunday morning. Barry said, "K." S.A. Grishing said that we have seen months of data from her phone. Barry said, "And there's no evidence of anybody getting into my house after I left." S.A. Grishing said, "That is correct." Barry said, "None." Barry is silent for a moment and then turned toward S.A. Harris and said, "Okay, go ahead." S.A. Harris talked about how sometimes in marriages, spouses may see things differently. But it appears clear to investigators that Suzanne was taking steps to communicate to Barry that she was done with the marriage. S.A. Harris referenced the text she sent asking to do it civilly, and also Suzanne saying that she forgot to say she would still do Barry's billing for him. Barry said, "Well, like I said, she never sat me down and never said that to me, ever. She's made comments via text, but she has never sat me down and said, 'Barry, I want a divorce.' Never." So I can see through an investigator's eyes that they would look at something like that and say, "Well, yeah, if they were going to get a divorce, then Barry, might do something." But that just was not the case. I mean, absolutely not the case. S.A. Grishing asked Barry again about the statement that Suzanne's lover told investigators, where he said that Barry either found out about the affair or she said she was leaving him, or both, and that is why Suzanne was not responding on Saturday or Sunday. Barry pauses, shrugs his shoulders, and shakes his head from side to side and said, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I would not. If she would tell me, I love her so much that if she would say, 'Barry, I'm not happy. I found love somewhere else,' I would say, 'We don't need to get if this is what you want, I don't want to be with you if you don't love me. I love you, but I want you to be happy.' I would have wrote her a check for half and let her on her way." The side notation to that is This statement contradicts Barry's text threatening suicide after Suzanne said, "I'm done." His statements of controlling his hurt heart and hothead Barry found out and killed his wife, and God's judgment on Suzanne for cheating. S.A. Gershing asked what the check would have been back then. Barry said, "Well, we'd have to sell the house. Wouldn't have been much back then. I'm just saying we would sell the house and split everything. I wouldn't get a pay for a divorce lawyer and or anything like that. I love her enough. I got a relationship with her. I'm a good-hearted guy. I want my girls to be protected. I would say, I don't agree with this. I love you. Here's your half. I'm sorry. It's got to be this way." That's the way I would handle it if it ever came to that. But like I said, she never sat me down and said that. If she would have, knowing what I know now about her life, her second life that she was leading, all she had to do was be honest with me. I'm not going to like it. It's not going to feel good, but I'm a God-fearing man. I love the Lord, and I think she loves the Lord. He continued, "I know that she was in sin, and Satan can put blinders on anybody. So I know what this looks like on the outside, and I know what the people, and if they get wind of this affair, are going to say, and it's going to look like to them. But they don't know me, and they don't know her, and they don't know our relationship. If you knew how special our relationship was from day one to when she fell into sin, you couldn't have told me." S.A. Grishing interrupted Barry and said that he could see that Barry was trying to uphold his side of the relationship. Barry said, "But she didn't believe that in her head, Johnny. I mean, I gave her everything since she was 17 years old, and I loved her better than anybody could. So it doesn't make sense to me why she did what she did." S.A. Grishing went back to the first paragraph on the audit and told Barry that investigators still don't have from him the last time he saw Suzanne alive, and asked Barry what time he would say. S.A. Grishing explained that investigators are looking for last proof of life because we have a difference of her breathing and then Barry seeing her. Barry said, "Yeah." S.A. Grishing asked when Barry would say he last saw her alive. Barry said, "Well, I would say 5 o'clock in the morning. I seen her in the bed." S.A. Grishing asked Barry what he saw. Barry said, I just see a lump there because the light from the bathroom, the light in the room's not on, but bathroom right there lights up a little bit." Side note to that is S.A. Grishing introduced the lump concept to Barry on June 2nd, 2020, when Barry refused to answer what his last visual sighting of Suzanne was. S.A. Grishing asked Barry what he sees. Barry said, "I don't specifically see anything, but I know from peripheral vision walking in and out that she's laying there. I just know she's laying there. I'm not saying I looked directly at her, but I specifically 100%, no doubt in my mind, heard her snoring lightly when I left." S.A. Grishing asked if Suzanne normally snores lightly. Barry said, "Sometimes she does. It's not all the time, but when she's in a deep, deep sleep, yeah." S.A. Gershing clarifies that it is not an all-out snore, but a light snore. Barry said, "Yeah, I mean, she does it. I mean, she's done it her whole life, just not every night. But yeah, it happens." S.A. Gershing asked about detail. Barry said, "I would say 5 o'clock in the morning, thereabouts when I walked out." S.A. Gershing clarifies again that Barry, the last thing he hears is Suzanne lightly snoring. Barry said, "Yep. And there is no doubt 100% that she was in that bed because of that. Like I said, I don't specifically remember directly looking at her, but I remember the snoring. 100%, no doubt in my mind." S.A. Grishing clarifies that Suzanne was not with him when he took the left turn to look at the bull elk. Barry said, No, absolutely not. 100% no." S.A. Grishing asked if Barry had the helmet with him when he went to see the bull elk. Barry said, absolutely not. S.A. Grishing explains that this is the direction the helmet was found, and Barry said, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. S.A. Grishing said that he has to ask those questions, and Barry said, I understand. And then the note on the picture here is basically they've stipulated Barry often stood or sat in this manner while speaking to agents. Now, I don't know what they're inferring by that. Anybody have any ideas? Lots of people have different mannerisms, or, they hold their hands or their head or stuff in different places or positions. So I'm not sure what they mean by that. S.A. Harris asked Barry about the timing of when he left because he is saying 5, but he had looked at earlier times on the sheet and he was shown, and that we are trying to make sense of marks in time. Barry interrupted and said, I don't know. I don't know exactly what time. I just know it was around 5 o'clock, but I don't know exactly. S.A. Gershing asked Barry when he sees the lump, was it him seeing just covers or some of the covers with Suzanne? Barry said, like I said, I don't recall looking specifically at her. I just know she was there. Maybe more from the noise than seeing her, but I know I saw her there. No doubt in my mind, 100% she was laying right there when I left. S.A. Gershing tells Barry that investigators are still waiting for some things like her Range Rover, and that things like this don't end, and that we are waiting for snow to melt to look at a few places. S.A. Gershing asks Barry to call if he has anything else that comes to mind, and we will talk. Barry said, I just want, have I been cooperative with you guys? S.A. Gershing says he has. Barry said, any guy in his right mind that knows anything about the legal system would tell you not to talk. S.A. Gershing interrupts Barry to say that he hears Barry, but fathers or spouses of people who go missing typically can't be stopped from calling the FBI. S.A. Gershing told Barry if he is guilty, he is correct, that he should not be talking to us. Barry said, yeah. S.A. Gershing says, but if Barry wants us to find Suzanne, he shouldn't hesitate to call on anything that comes to mind. Barry said, and I want that. I mean, I still love her. Even though I found all of this stuff out, and even though it hurts me to the bone, it doesn't mean I don't love her. I want her, but I know she made a mistake. I know it's not her, and I know that if she got right with the Lord, that she would ask for forgiveness from him and me. Barry added, this is hard on his daughters, and he wants Suzanne back. S.A. Gershing asked Barry if he remembers what he said when he first met with agents, and what he said about Hillary and Comey. Barry said, I probably said something about Comey's a liar. He's at the very top of the FBI, and he's a liar. S.A. Gershing asked Barry if he remembered what he said about how he knew Comey was lying when he said certain things. Barry said no. S.A. Gershing reminded Barry that he said when Comey said, I don't recall, and that is what both Hillary and Comey would say, and that is what Barry told agents indicated they were lying. Side note, by this point in the audit, Barry had replied, I don't recall so many times to the audit questions that agents lost count. Barry said, yeah, well, I just don't trust the whole thing about Comey and Hillary. So, I mean, I don't know if you're trying to twist that around and turn, put it on me. But when I tell you I don't recall something, I don't recall it. S.A. Gershing says, okay. Barry said, it's not that I'm lying. There's nothing in every question you guys asked me, there is nothing that I had to lie about it. S.A. Gershing said agents didn't know if it was a subtle way of Barry telling us that. Barry said, no, absolutely not. If I told you guys that I don't recall something, then I didn't recall it. The reason I said that about Jim Comey is because I heard the questions they were asking him, and there's no way in heck he couldn't recall that. There's no way. S.A. Gershing tells Barry that he might not believe this, but he doesn't pay attention to the things that happen in D.C. because that is not why someone signs up for the FBI. S.A. Gershing tells Barry he hopes that people can see that it is not who we are. Barry says that he sees S.A. Gershing and S.A. Harris as two men of integrity and honest, God-fearing men, and then said he hopes agents would see him in the same light because Barry thinks us three are a lot alike. S.A. Gershing says that we all make mistakes as well, and that is why agents want to leave room for Barry to talk about anything, including something he thinks might make him look bad. But he hopes agents are the type of people Barry could tell that to. Barry said, you are. S.A. Gershing asked if Barry would show agents the pin on his Bobcat he was repairing on Saturday. Agents said Barry start to walk back over to his Bobcat. While walking, Barry said, so as of now, I'm not going to get anything of mine back. S.A. Gershing said That is not up to agents. S.A. Grishing asked Barry, what's most important? Barry said, the guns are the most important and my cameras. S.A. Grishing asks about the pin on the Bobcat. Barry points to a pin on the back right arm of the Bobcat and says that he didn't even realize that the nut has come off of a bolt that is there. Barry states when the Bobcat arm goes up and down, the pin works its way out one way or the other, and he just has to beat it back in place because it holds the cylinder in place. S.A. Grishing asks if Barry can do that on his own and doesn't need help. Barry confirms that he can. Barry starts talking about the cutting blade of the Bobcat and walks around to show agents as he describes how it has a cutting edge on both sides and can be flipped, and that when Cribb had to replace his blade, it had already been flipped and both edges were worn out. Barry said he thinks that Trent had the blade and gave it to CBI. Other topics covered in the audit included Barry's purchase of the VPN, Barry deleting calls from his call logs, why Barry initially thought his big argument with Suzanne was on Friday, evidence through Libler messages of other arguments daily that week, how long Suzanne was distant and unloving, if Barry and Suzanne were separate on Wednesday and Friday evenings based on their cell phones, discrepancies in his calls to Gene Mormon, evidence pointing to Barry sending the Facebook friends requests on Friday night, Barry's phone functions involving passwords, token sharing and group functions, and the multiple airplane mode functions on Barry's phone. Barry was shown Google Maps of his residence and his phone activity on Saturday, May 9th, when he arrived home between 11:30 a.m. and left at 1:38 p.m. When shown location points that his truck may not have pulled in the driveway, and he appeared to be coming up through the woods on foot to his house, Barry said he might have been looking at turkeys. Barry was shown a second map below of his movements from 11:52 a.m. to 12:31 p.m. when he appeared to head east of his property during the time he was supposedly having veggie soup with Suzanne. Barry said he was looking for a turkey that blank had shot previously with a bow, but they had never found. And that diagram here with the residence location and different times notated in the picture. Barry was shown a third map where it looked like he was on foot heading back to his truck before he left at 1:38 p.m. and called Suzanne at 1:47 p.m. and 1:49 p.m. Barry said it made sense that he did not talk to Suzanne much during that lunch hour as a reason for him calling her twice when he got to Highway 50. Barry was asked about the following and shown exhibits. Regarding his trip to get a backhoe on Saturday, May 9th, and why he needed a backhoe that day, where the towel Suzanne was lying in her last photo on might be located, not recovered at the house, why Barry texted Suzanne, "Did you leave?" as he headed home at 2:31 p.m. More details about the chipmunk gun, when he mounted the scope and Suzanne's reaction to him shooting, when the Foose's hike occurred, details of his last meal with Suzanne, whether Barry unplugged his router or threw away surveillance components, his purchase and disposal of the mini camera, his cleaning of the workbench for his trip to Broomfield, his movements through Saturday night and Sunday morning, when he last saw Suzanne's phone, items thrown away, and trash runs in Broomfield, proof that he was not at the wall when he received the call from the Ritters, and staging of the tools in the hotel. Regarding the photo of Barry pushing trash to the bottom of the McDonald's trash can, he said the photo makes it look like he was disposing of evidence. He could not recall what items he threw away. When asked about the folders that were burned in his fireplace, he said he and Suzanne were cleaning out file cabinets that week. Barry was shown a map of Garfield, Colorado, and he confirmed he turned around on Sunday, May 10th at the first place he could have, pointing to exit 228. And the side note to that is Barry pointed to this as a possible turnaround point, though he stated, "I don't recall," numerous times. Barry said he did not climb that road leading up into the mountains, nor did he go into any of the mines. He said George and his buddies searched those mine shafts for Suzanne. When asked about Suzanne's leather journal that was not recovered, he said he did not recall that she had one. Barry was told that Suzanne confided in friends that sex with him was not pleasurable, then reminded that he put sex as the top reason on his victimology questionnaire for someone's motive for her disappearance. Barry refuted that by saying she had an O every time, so I don't understand that. Barry said he should have listed uh, rape instead of sex on the questionnaire as a motivator for her disappearance because he thought of some creep trying to rape her. Barry was told by S.A. Harris about the needle sheath for the tranquilizer being found in the dryer. He said he had no idea how it got there, and it's got nothing to do with me. Barry added, I hate that because, that makes me look bad. S.A. Grishing asked Barry if he shot the tranquilizer gun on Saturday, May 9th, and he said, absolutely not. Barry was told no tranquilizer like BAM was recovered at the house. He said he used BAM, Telazol, and xylazine as tranquilizers. When Barry was asked if he disposed of those, he stated, I don't recall. Barry was asked what he used to reverse the tranquilizer effect, and he said tolazine. Barry said he brought the chemicals, which he knew to be controlled substances, from Indiana and kept them on his workbench. Barry said he kept the chemicals in vials and injected chemicals into darts, not using a licensed vet for that process. When asked if he was able to do that all himself, he said, yeah, absolutely. Barry was asked the last time he used those chemicals, and he said around the end of April 2020. S.A. Grishing asked if those chemicals could have been part of the workbench he cleaned off before he went to Broomfield, and he said could have been. Barry admitted to submitting a ballot on Suzanne's behalf for the presidential election, saying, yeah, just because I wanted Trump to win, he said. I figured all these other guys were cheating. I knew she was going to vote for Trump anyway. S.A. Grishing informed Barry that was not legal, and Barry said, I didn't know you couldn't submit it for your spouse. Some additional photos of Barry during the interview. Barry said, all I have now is my hunting. That's all I have. And I've done it since I was 7 years old. So if I got to go live this life without her, at least want my hunting. And this year I'm going to travel. George and I's going to hunt. And it would be nice to have my guns and that I'm confident with and shot many animals and have great confidence in them. Be nice to have my cameras. When I go back to Indiana, I put them up there, and they're cell phone cameras that I can be anywhere in the country and can get pictures of the deer that I'm hunting. So guns and cameras are my most important things on the wish list. S.A. Harris tells Barry that when he talks about closure for himself and the girls, agents want to find her, to give them that closure, and that agents want him to know that is a focus for them. Barry said, I know, and I just need to know from you guys. And I think I asked you this. If there's physical evidence that she is deceased, my family needs to know about that. Barry said that Blank thinks Suzanne left, and he needs evidence she's still not alive. S.A. Grishing tells Barry that there is no way that Suzanne is not communicating on her phone Saturday night and Sunday morning if she is conscious, and then if she is able to access for her phone. Barry said, yeah. Shrugs his shoulders and looks down. S.A. Grishing said it would not happen and compares agents knowing Suzanne's phone the way Barry knows how to use the Bobcat and how it behaves. Barry interrupted and said, but Johnny, when you say that, that makes blank, that makes me look like the bad guy. S.A. Grishing tells Barry that he is the one who is there. Barry said, I know, but it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. S.A. Grishing says that if it is not Barry, somebody took her phone then. Barry said, like I said, I don't know what. I mean, you guys have got to give me. You've texted me. You're going to be my advocate. What did you mean by that? S.A. Grishing said that he told Barry he would be his advocate to represent Barry's statements the very best he can. Because right now, Barry is not going to stand up and tell everybody his story because he's smart enough not to do that. Barry is talking to agents, and we want to tell the unvarnished truth of what Barry is telling us and not shade it one way or another. Barry said, okay. S.A. Grishing says that if Barry took her phone, agents can see that Barry is wanting to repair the relationship and Suzanne is trying to do the opposite. So that if Barry would come home and take her phone Saturday night, that would look bad for Barry if she went missing the next day. Barry begins sliding his foot back and forth on the blade of the bucket on the Bobcat. S.A. Grishing continues telling Barry the burden would be on agents to find out what happened to Suzanne and not him. Barry responded, yeah. S.A. Grishing said it would make sense to agents that when he comes home around 2:44 p.m. on Saturday, that he would take her phone and she runs off or disappears or whatever happens. Barry said, yeah. S.A. Grishing says again, it is our job to find her. Barry said, yeah. Barry again slides his foot along the cutting blade of the Bobcat. S.A. Grishing said if there is something bad happened and it looks bad for Barry, he should tell agents and put the burden on them to do the rest of the investigation. Barry said, yeah, well, I've told you everything truthfully, both you guys, so it's in God's hands. I mean, he allowed this whole thing to happen. S.A. Grishing talks about how the pieces, like Barry chasing around a chipmunk with a gun or the left turn for the bull elk, are pieces that we need. Barry said, I know all that stuff looks bad, but it's just crazy that stuff's even a part of this. I mean, it's crazy how that stuff, ironically, is a part of this. It just makes no sense. To me, like, why would God allow pieces like that have to be answered in this situation? I just don't get it. S.A. Grishing asked Barry what his thought is on why. Barry said, I have no idea. I don't know his ways. He's way greater than us. I don't know. I've often thought, God, why? I thought that I'd be cleared in 2 months. And I've often asked God, why are you dragging me through this? You know, physically, this is not good for me, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I'm not angry with God. I fear him, love him, respect him. Know that he allows things to happen for reasons. I try to figure out why. I try to say in my head, if she going through all this stuff that I found out since January, and maybe God wanted to protect the girls from heartache. I mean, I don't know. But S.A. Grishing talks about personal sacrifice and how this never goes away and gives an example. Barry asks how he could live like that. S.A. Grishing continues and tells Barry that if there is something that happened that makes him look bad and he would trust agents with something like that, we could help him. Barry said, I gotta have help. I mean, if these people in Chaffee hate me, like the word is, they hate me, and they get to the DA and he says, he made our sheriff's department look bad and we're going to blame it on him, then my daughter, who's going to raise my daughter if they lock me up for something I didn't do? S.A. Grishing said, even if it is something you didn't do, but something you know about that would help us, maybe that is Barry's sacrifice. Barry said, yeah. S.A. Grishing tells Barry, he is not saying it will be easy, but this will not go away. Barry said, yeah, well, what happens from here? When you guys go to them, what's the next step? S.A. Grishing explains that agents will share the results with the district attorney's office and it will be up to them. S.A. Harris offers again that Barry could take a polygraph. Barry said that he would pray about it and he needs to get going. Barry tells agents to be careful going back. The interview ends at that point. So for the ongoing investigation, the tranquilizer research, on April 20th, 2021, S.A. Grishing interviewed Lisa Wolf, field veterinarian, retired, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, otherwise known as CP&W, who advised she developed and tested the solution BAM, an anesthesia combination that is used to immobilize a broad range of species of animals. Wolf practiced as a licensed vet for 35 years and taught courses on the effects of sedatives on wildlife. Wolf said BAM has not been tested on humans to her knowledge, but she predicts a tranquilizer dart would cause considerable hematoma to human skin because it was developed to pierce through deer hide. Wolf estimated that a female of Suzanne's size would likely be fully sedated from a dose of BAM in 8 to 12 minutes and in complete sedation from 2 to 8 hours, depending on how her body reacted to the tranquilizer and her resting position. Wolf suggested the dart would be very painful and estimated a female would be likely run for 2 to 3 minutes and she would feel a little bit drunk before complete sedation, appearing wobbly and unstable. The only safe place to fire the dart would be into the buttocks area because the impact to internal organs would cause considerable damage and the dart should not hit any bones. Wolf said that a person's breathing would be difficult while sedated from BAM due to brain hypoxia, since oxygen coming into the blood would be low. If a person was lying on her back, her breathing would sound like a snore, as the tongue could be pushed into the airway. Wolf said a BAM dose to a human could be fatal, depending on the health of the person, and a second dose would likely cause brain damage. A licensed vet must prescribe BAM for it to be used legally. Wolf was asked about Telazol, mentioned by Barry in the April 22nd, 2021 interview. And she said that And she said that is a heavily regulated anesthetic, more potent than BAM, that is only to be used by licensed veterinarians. Telazol was used by CPNW to bring down bears, who would remain sedated for 2 to 8 hours. It was also used for surgery, and there was no reversal drug for it. Wolf believed Telazol was a DEA Schedule III class drug, and she was surprised any civilian would have it. Wolf said that xylazine is similar in nature to BAM and is a sedative sometimes used to smooth out the effects of Telazol. She stated that tolazine reverses the sedative effects of xylazine. Wolf said atimoprazole would likely be used to reverse the effects of BAM. And that's a mouthful. On April 20th, 2021, S.A. Grishing called Mary Wood at blank, a current veterinarian for Colorado Parks and Wildlife, who confirmed that CPNW uses BAM to sedate animals and complete sedation occurs within 4 to 20 minutes. Wood said that the company Zoofarm, 1401 Duff Drive, Fort Collins, Colorado, manufactures and ships the BAM to licensed vets across the United States, who can provide the drug to private citizens with a prescription. Wood knew of a human receiving 1/100th of a dose of BAM as a sedative in an IV, but she thought a full dose to a human might be fatal, depending on the physical characteristics of the human. Wolf said the dart should be targeted towards areas of muscle with no bones, possibly the buttocks. All right, moving on to the interview with Shoshana Dark. Oh boy. All right, give me a second here. I just got my stuff fouled up a little bit. Okay, on December 16, 2020, CCSO Deputy Miles Jones received a tip from a person who requested to remain anonymous. She reported that her friend, Shoshana Louise Dark, is intimately involved in a relationship with Barry. On December 17, 2020, Sergeant Julian and Agent Cahill interviewed Dark at the CCSO office. She said she has known Barry since October 2020 because she cleaned his neighbor's house and met him at the dumpster by chance. She denied being in a romantic or sexual relationship with Barry. Dark deleted items on her phone, one possibly being a second phone number for Barry, in front of investigators and was evasive in answering questions. Dark said she called the CBI tip line in May 2020 to report strange vehicles being in the area around Puma Path around the time Suzanne disappeared. Dark said in the December interview that she did not know Suzanne. And Suzanne, she's my age. A lot of people say I resemble her. There is a photograph of Shoshana Dark there in this top page of the document. From December 2020 through April 2021, numerous Salida residents have reported that Dark is in a relationship with Barry. Their relationship is reported to date back to July 2020, though investigators have not confirmed that. A poll camera installed by the FBI has captured Barry's truck consistently coming and going from Dark's residence, often between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m., sometimes staying through the night. And there's a photo there. Clearly you can see the truck and a residence there off to the right. CBI agents Graham and Cahill confirmed that Dark and Barry checked into the Antlers Hotel in Colorado Springs on February 12, 2021, and checked out on Valentine's Day, as captured on surveillance footage below, with Barry carrying Dark's luggage and Dark holding a bouquet of flowers. Barry's cell phone was either off or in airplane mode during a majority of this trip. Photos attached, appearing like the lobby. Shoshana carrying something. I can't tell it's flowers in this photo, and Barry carrying 2 bags. Summary of the arrest affidavit. Suzanne Morphew is missing and presumed dead. Per all nationwide checks, investigative leads, and absence of interactions with Jeff Libler, Sheila Oliver, blank and blank. Once blank left the Morphew house on May 5, 2020, Suzanne began to take her steps to leave Barry, while Barry took steps to control her, incapacitate her, stage a crime scene, and create his alibi for her disappearance. No hike existed that Saturday afternoon in Barry's multiple interviews with CBI until a June interview when he said they hiked to Foose's Lake. CBI allowed him to assert that a few times until they refuted the hike in his July interview. Barry was told that he was driving in Salida that afternoon, asking Tim Backhoe to purchase a backhoe attachment for his Bobcat. Finally, Barry put his phone in airplane mode that Saturday afternoon at 2:47 p.m. after he returned home and ran around his house at 2:44 p.m. He claimed to CBI that he and Suzanne ate steaks, though he could not describe them, that she washed blank sheets, though blank said the bed was made when she left, that they had sex, though he could not describe what happened following sex, that he woke to his alarm at 4:30 a.m., though no alarm was set on his phone, and his phone and his truck telematics were moving in the 3 a.m. hour, and that he had to suddenly leave for a job in Broomfield, though he did not tell his coworkers he was leaving that morning. Barry initially blamed a mountain lion for Suzanne's death upon being notified of her bicycle recovery. In 2021, Barry blamed the turkeys for why he did not have veggie soup with Suzanne during lunch on Saturday, May 9th, the deer for why his tranquilizer gun was used to explain the needle sheath recovered in the dryer, and a chipmunk for why he was running around the house after arriving home at 2:44 p.m. And the firing of a gun of a .22 caliber to describe his violence towards Suzanne that afternoon, and the caliber of the tranquilizer darts. For his trip on May 10th, Barry explained his left turn on Highway 50 to explain the truck movement because of a bull elk sighting at 4:30 a.m. from 2 miles down the road, a left turn that placed him at the scene of Suzanne's helmet. Barry cannot provide a last sighting of Suzanne, only labored breathing similar to a snore, which is consistent with her being tranquilized. Barry describes her as being drunk that afternoon, which matches the effects of the tranquilizer after a few minutes. He says he is running around the house, most likely chasing Suzanne while she is conscious. Barry has admitted that he had taken Suzanne's phone from her at least twice in the past to try to monitor her or control what she was doing. There is no phone activity for Suzanne after 2:30 p.m. on Saturday, which is out of the norm for her typical behavior, and an abrupt end following her 59 communications with Jeff Libler that morning and afternoon. By around 2:30 p.m. on Saturday, May 9th, it had become clear that Barry could not control Suzanne's insistence on leaving him, and he resorted to something he has done his entire life: hunt and control Suzanne like he had hunted and controlled animals. Barry told investigators early on that he blamed alcohol for Suzanne's change of behavior and her distant unlovingness to him. Though she was not a heavy drinker, Barry used alcohol, drugs, and chemo throughout his interviews to describe Suzanne's independence and distancing from him, saying it was every day that last week. Barry finally blamed God for Suzanne's death after being informed of the affair as a form of judgment on her, and has stated repeatedly that God allowed this to happen. Barry told FBI and CBI numerous times no evidence exists which interferes he knows what happened to the evidence in this case. When the Ritters called Barry at around 5 p.m. on Sunday to tell Barry they could not find Suzanne, Barry was in his hotel room, and he'd been there since about 12:40 p.m. However, he should not be there, per his alibi to be out of town for an emergency job in Broomfield. Barry told the Ritters he was at the job site. He told the FBI, CBI, and CCSO he was at the job site. He left his room, took tools out of his truck, and put them in the lobby to make it look like he was returning from the site. Barry made every little attempt to contact Suzanne on his way home. Barry made very little attempt to contact Suzanne on his way home or look around his house or the bike scene because he already knew what happened to her. Setting the tools out that day was similar to what happened earlier that morning when Suzanne's bicycle was placed on the incline. As Deputy Brown commented, I started to question if something criminal had occurred, as it looked like the bike was purposely thrown in this location. As of May 4th, 2021, Suzanne Morphew has not been located. I affirm that this affidavit and warrant has been reviewed by the following attorneys with the 11th Judicial District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Linda Stanley and Deputy Senior District Attorney Jeff Lindsay on 5/4/2021. Therefore, your affiant respectfully requests that a warrant be issued for the arrest of Barry Lee Morphew, date of birth October 17th, 1967, and pursuant to CRS 16-4-101 and then 1A, the warrant be no bond. Further, your affiant saith not. Alex Walker, Chief Investigator, subscribed and sworn to me this 4th day of May, 2021. Signed by Judge Patrick Murphy. The following pages have some attachments. Attachment 1 is the airplane mode, different dates and times that Barry had his phone in airplane mode. Another attachment that nothing about Barry's story of sneaking up in the woods because he wanted to take a shower made sense to Sheila Oliver or Suzanne. Sheila told agents other stories of Barry sneaking up years ago in Indiana, climbing up the side of a house to see if Suzanne had a boyfriend. The next attachment, attachment number 3, on 11/3/2020, CBI agent Graham spoke with Kara and Steve Marshall, the previous homeowners of the residence, at 19057 Puma Path before selling the home to the Morphew family. Kara stated there was no damage to the master bedroom door jamb when the residence was sold to Barry and Suzanne Morphew. Kara and Steve separately said they suspected Barry killed Suzanne after hearing the news of her disappearance based upon multiple observations they made of Barry during and after the sale of the house. Hey, Pamela Smith. Thanks for joining us. I am at the very end of the affidavit. However, you can go back and watch and listen to the entire thing. Thank you. The last attachment, a copy of the page shown to Barry of the activities of his truck on the night of Saturday, May 9th, that contradicts his story of cooking steak, having sex, and going to bed around 8 or 9 p.m. Much of it's pretty blurry. I can't quite read it myself. That would be the telematics of his truck and the door opening and if the truck was moving at all in the driveway. Attachment 5, a photo of the breezeway in relation to the chair where Suzanne was sunbathing on the afternoon of Saturday, May 9th. And the picture has a diagram basically of the sunbathing chairs and the breezeway. I can't quite see the breezeway myself, so it's not really clear. Attachment 6, an estimate of the activity of Barry's phone as it appears to move from porch to porch, which he explained by chasing and shooting a chipmunk. which in the diagram basically I think gives time frame and has arrows and lines indicating the movement of Barry's phone at that time. Well, that's it, you guys. That is the completion of the Barry Morphew arrest affidavit. I'd love to know your thoughts. Is Barry guilty? Is Barry innocent? Did you find anything in the document that stands out to you? Clear evidence that a crime was committed? I appreciate everybody joining us and listening. Thanks a lot. If you guys like the video, if you click the like button, that would be terrific. Hit the subscribe button. Share it as much as possible. That would be awesome. Again, thanks everybody. Hope everybody stays well. Has a great night. Peace. Thanks, you guys.